Are zombies just mindless monsters? Or do they reflect our deepest fears? From the classic horror films to the complex narratives of today, we will be exploring the evolution of zombie tropes and what they reveal about society. The origin of zombies may not be what you expect. You probably think of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And while that definitely has its place in this video, the origin is actually far before that. The concept of a zombie goes back to Haitian folklore, and more specifically, its roots in slavery and the practice of voodoo religion. This idea of zombies originated in Haiti during the era of French colonization, which included brutal slavery. And the word zombie is apparently derived from the African Kikongo word nzambi, which means spirit of a dead person. Zombies are tied to slavery because they are believed to be a metaphor for eternal bondage, as most felt the only way to escape slavery was through death. And in the lore, a zombie is a reanimated corpse brought back to life by a bokor, or a voodoo sorcerer. The Haitian zombie differs from the Western version, however, because the Haitian version is not a flesh-eating monster. It's actually more so just a person lacking free will and forced into labor or doing whatever the bokor wants them to do. And as a cure, it is different from the Western adaptations of zombies we know, as those can span from possibly having a cure through medicine to not having any chance at a cure at all. It is believed that salt actually cures someone from the zombified state in the Haitian culture. So, how did this seemingly obscure folklore tale become such a big part of Western pop culture? Well, it started when this myth was introduced to Western audiences through the book The Magic Island by William Seabrook, and this led to the film White Zombie in 1932. Now, obviously we cannot talk about zombies without diving into Night of the Living Dead, as I said earlier, and the impact that it had on the genre as a whole. Now, with this movie, Romero transformed zombies from the Haitian myth they were known as into relentless flesh-eating ghouls who did not have a master or any humanity to them. This, along with the introduction of the zombies being able to infect the living, has set the standard for even modern zombies we get today. It is quite literally the godfather of the modern zombie, and many people have given their flowers to this movie and its inspiration, clearly. But that's not all it did, because it did come out in the 60s, and that was a time of a lot of social and political change in America. The prime example most probably think of is the casting of Dwayne Jones, an African American, as the lead role in this film as Ben. Unfortunately, Ben was shot by a posse of white people who believed he was a zombie, which reflected the harshness of racial violence and the fear of being seen as a threat for being a different race at the time. The film also reflects the lack of faith the American people had in government institutions by showing the ineffective responses from the government and media in the movie. Now we fast forward some time to the 1980s and 1990s, where zombies were becoming as popular as ever. Before bringing any new message with the rise in popularity, that message being a message against consumerism and the dangers of mass conformity. During this time, the genre exploded through all kinds of mediums too, like movies, video games, and even TV shows later on. As time moves on, as many of you may have noticed, the metaphors and new meanings people find with zombies changes as well. Later on, the genre would explore things like climate change, global pandemics, as well as themes like redemption, empathy, and the human capacity for compassion in the midst of all of this horror and carnage. And I'm sure many of you could think of hundreds of examples for all of this, from The Walking Dead to 28 Days Later to Dying Light, everything in between as well. There's hundreds of examples of this modern take on zombies. Some also say zombies are used to symbolize our social anxieties as well, like fear of technology, social isolation, and loss of individuality. But what makes modern zombies so fascinating and terrifying? Probably because they're a representation of death and disintegration, and they make us face the reality of death and that fear that our bodies will someday turn into something lifeless and unrecognizable, just like the zombies we're looking at. A lot of people also compare being a zombie to a lot of modern day-to-day lives, such as conforming to a crowd, doing what is believed to be normal, and just becoming a number, which is a fear, especially nowadays, I have noticed an uptick in a lot of people having. And it's rightfully so. I mean, it's hard not to feel like a number, especially when most companies and jobs are designed to make you feel that way. But one of my favorite aspects of this genre just happens to be a positive one, and that is the resilience of the human spirit. Now, a lot of people, including myself, often joke that being killed right at the start of a zombie takeover would be so much better than living. Because who would want to live in a world where you have sprinting zombies like World War Z, Dying Light, or 28 Days Later? I mean, it just seems miserable. Not to mention how bad humans can clearly be in these universes. I mean, it makes anyone wonder if they'd be able to survive. And even if you did, who would want to? But I do think there's something to be said about the sheer grit and determination the humans in these zombie stories have to push on, and how they show that human spirit. It allows us as an audience to picture ourselves having that same strength, to do what's needed to survive and rebuild a society in these conditions. After all, that's what movies are about. Escapism, but still finding parts of our lives and parts of ourselves in certain characters and stories. Another aspect of zombies that I never really mentioned specifically when it comes to what makes them so scary is the uncanny valley effect, which I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with from projects like The Polar Express to Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. But if you don't know what that is, it's basically something that is almost human, but there's just something off about it. As I said, I've never heard this term associated with zombies really, but I've always thought it suits them perfectly, because they are usually very gross and scary looking, obviously. But there is something deeper to me on why they are so terrifying and what makes it so hard to look at and just terrifying to think of being in that situation. And I believe this term encapsulates what that feeling is perfectly. Now, we have talked about where zombies come from, past and present tropes in the subgenre, but now I want to talk about where I think the genre will go and what tropes they will dive into in the future. I believe the first one is obvious, and that is the use of technology in the genre, specifically a focus on the AI side of things. Now, we've seen this in modern times, especially recently, with the interpretation or incorporation of AI villains or machines in movies, and even as far back as something like The Terminator. It's been around forever, and I just think zombies is the perfect medium to start incorporating this into. For example, maybe it's a controlled viral outbreak mixed with AI to create a cybernetic zombie, something unstoppable, yet still not human. It works so well on both sides of the coin. I just think it would be a perfect opportunity. The next theory I have is one I'm surprised we haven't gotten more of yet. And even though we've had things close to this, I still don't believe we've gotten the actual example I'm about to give, and that is outbreaks from space exploration. For example, astronauts are exploring a planet or just space in general, and then you could have a whole movie take place on a congested space aircraft, similar to Aliens, where they have to face the outbreak, and it's a small crew trying not to get picked off or trying not to get infected. I think there's a lot of creativity you can incorporate to make that a really solid movie. Or even maybe just finding it up there and bringing it back down to Earth and just letting all hell break loose and basing a movie off of that. I also think that it's obvious, but I would regret it if I did not say, I think they will continue to tackle social and political issues in this form. I think zombies just work very well for it, and oddly enough, most people I talk to just don't really know how much politics and social commentary are incorporated into horror movies, even dating as far back as the 80s, and a lot of people's favorites like Freddy and some Halloween movies. It's just all over the place with horror, so I'm surprised more people have not picked up on that. But in the end, we don't know where this genre will go, or where anything will go for that matter, as that's life. I do know, however, that I am happy this subgenre exists, and that we get so much good content related to it now. From 28 years later, that just recently released, to the Resident Evil video games that are still releasing, and even Dying Light. There is no shortage of zombie content out there. Hopefully we can remember to keep connecting as people, and as a society, so we don't become modern versions of zombies ourselves. I think it's important to have fun on the internet, have fun doing what you like doing, but be sure to try to connect with each other, be kind with each other, and just try to remember we're all still human. For now, luckily. If you enjoyed what I had to say in this video, I would appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing. Now this was more of a scripted video, so if you like this format more, then let me know below. I'd love to keep adding content like this, especially if it's something you guys enjoy. I mainly try the non-scripted videos just so I could have more of a chill feel or vibe to them, but if this is something you guys like, I'd be happy to do this instead. If I got anything wrong, or if you have anything to add, please comment below because I would love to discuss more and hear other viewpoints. And that's all for this one. Thanks.